Welcome to Writer's Den. I'm Jane Waters Thomas, and today we have a wonderful author, writer, songwriter, counselor for writers with us, and her name is Mary Joy.
Nice to be here.
We're thrilled you're here. Yeah. Well, you know, I've known you for a bit of time, Mary, and some really cool things you've done, songwriting to your most recent works, which is the Florida Piney Woods Pioneers.
Yes.
Which, what an interesting title that is. I want to talk to you today about not only your book, some of the work that you're going to be doing in the upcoming months, but also about writer's block and what that looks like. You've actually developed a part of your career to help writers get past that. Is that correct?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about how that works. How I come to you with writer's block and what happens next.
Well, it's almost too easy to be true, but I told them to just write. And it's kind of like a therapy session. There's a certain reason they have timing for it, because there's only so much you can do. So I tell people to pick a time of day that you can write. Like Ernest Hemingway would pick 6 to noon, and he would stop. You have to know when to start and when to stop. You deadline yourself. You make your own deadline. And you write even if it's horrible. Because something in the horribleness will just, you'll have a eureka moment and go, oh.
How fun.
It unlocks you. You just have to just do it, like the Nike ad. You do it.
Just do it.
Just do it, but with a timer. You time
with a timer, and I know that a lot of writers use word count. To manage that as well. So either timing or word count.
Timing really helps.
How do you get a writer from the point of, I can't get it, there's nothing in me, to write even if it's horrible?
You know what? I would start by saying, there's nothing in me, I feel horrible, and then from that sentence, can't you think of one right there?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
1,000 different things?
1,000 different things.
You write exactly what you've just said and move on from there, because that can be part of your character development if you're writing fiction. If you're writing history, because that's where you can get blocked too. You can tell too much or too little, or I use time deadlines. I was a songwriter in Nashville for a long time, and people would always ask us, what inspires you? And I said, the clock and the pitch sheet and the time that we have. It was time. Deadlines, that's what inspires me. We have to do it.
Well, you are definitely a creative soul, from theater to writing to singing, acting.
Yeah,
a little bit of everything.
Do commercials. Well, I was a theater major. Yes.
Yeah. Well, you know, on the Writer's Den, one of the things that we really focus on are Polk County writers, people that are from our region, authors, I should say, that are from our region.
There's great people here.
And there are great people here, and in your profession, and now you are a counselor, correct?
Yes, and last night I interviewed Donna Kelly because I'm writing an article about her. She's a great writer here. So
she is a great writer here, and we've actually had her on our show in the past. You also, though, work with artists. And your most recent publication, the Florida Piney Wood Pioneer, you worked with a local artist to put that together, and that's actually history, but fiction.
I call it faction.
Faction.
I call it faction.
Well, tell us about faction.
Rick Powers came to me with his family history, genealogy, and a big fat notebook of family facts. And none of it would really corroborate, and Florida's not much different now than it was then. Some of the stuff gets lost in courthouses, and we're close to one here. So I just sort of made up a family history around what I thought they might have done. And I did know kind of where the family lived, and I would just move them around and put the story, like the Indian Removal Act of 1830, and a lot of the Seminole plights and things that went on, and Jacob Summerlin, who founded Bartow. I mean, he's in there, and I just kind of made the history, like I said to people, I Forrest Gumped it. Rick's family was just kind of satelliting around the history that was going on.
Wonderful. So in the process of writing this book about Rick's family and creating your own story, as faction, as you called it, which I just love that word. In creating this faction, do you ever hit any dead spots where you went, I cannot write this?
Sure, I did. In fact, on the very first page, to speak about writer's block, because Rick's family member had, they knew he had committed a crime in Georgia. He killed someone with a chair. And I said, well, if I'm going to do that, I'm not a murderous type. So what I'm going to have to do is make it somebody who needs killing. Kind of like the old Racehorse Haynes defense in Texas. The man was guilty of murder, but the man he killed needed killing. So I kind of did it. I got stuck right on the first page, and after that, I could make it, because I'm not, you know, because you are the essence of what you write. So I had to approach it from something I could live with.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense. It's
Completely.
narcissistic, but I had to do it.
It works. Clearly, it's published. It does work. So, in writing this book, there's a lot of fun information in it, and I've read through it several times. And I love the way you really take some key elements of Rick's personal story, and you really can see Mary Joy's take on all of those things in that book, and it kind of spins out in a really cool story. So what were you hoping readers would take away from this book and this publication?
That things haven't changed much. Pioneer spirit.
Yeah, cattle rustling, the whole thing.
And that you really have to watch out for people that, you know, wolves in sheep's clothing kind of people, because a lot of Rick's family's land was who knows where it went. People acquire property from people. We've got real estate deals that go awry here on a daily basis still. And I wanted to just have people believe that you can start with nothing, have nothing again, and start over again, and again, and again. That's what I teach people as a therapist. You don't stop until you're home in heaven, pretty much.
Right. So you have some interesting work coming up, and we've talked a little bit at this point about all the cool things you've done, but you've got some pretty amazing things upcoming that are going to look a lot like self-help. Do you want to share a little bit about those works?
I'll share a little bit, because I'm also like Ernest Hemingway. He said you don't ever tell exactly what you're writing, because it's like the dust on butterfly wings. It flies away. There's something, the magic goes away. But I'm working on a quick self-help book, because I promised myself I would not read another self-help book until I wrote one. And I want to make it easy. It's going to be a page by page. You have a problem, it's on this one page.
I love it. I love it.
Because people need help. I'm a solution-focused therapist, and I think people need quick solutions. And when you read, you know, a 150-page self-help book, you really can condense it down to 2 or 3 sentences and explain it to somebody. That's why they have summaries of books. That's why Cliff Notes are still selling.
Absolutely.
So,
and we live in a society of
quick
we need to be able to
fix.
do it really quick, really quick. And you bring up a very good point that reading sometimes really does need to be a quick find.
Yes.
And move. Quick find and move, quick find and move. And yeah, self-help books can get crazy long sometimes. So having something that's sort of, you know, the Cliff Notes version of how to fix it
Exactly.
might be fabulous.
That's what I'm trying to do. Because as a songwriter, because that is how I started in this business, we have 3 minutes to tell an entire story with emotions and feelings and whatever we need to say. We get like 3 to 4 minutes, and it's got to have 2 choruses, so we only really get like 2.5 minutes. So to me, if you can tell us the whole story in a song, certainly we can help people in a book.
So how did songwriting help you to become a good author?
Wow, that's a great question. I don't think it's anything different than what I do now in a therapeutic office either, because we sit just like you and I are, tossing around ideas, and if you and I sat here long enough, we'd say, we could write a song about that.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I think songwriting automatically, because it's a condensed version of everything, you see a story everywhere, because we don't have the luxury to be inspired, again, because of the clock, the deadline. And the publisher might send us, like at Warner Brothers, they'd send us a pitch sheet, no sad songs this month, you know, so-and-so's looking for a happy song. You don't feel like writing a happy song. You don't have the luxury to be inspired. You write it anyway. So
where do you pull the inspiration from on the song that you don't want to write?
Well, I'll give you a Nashville secret. When we get stuck, we'd go to lunch and we'd listen to every server, every lawyer at a table with a meeting. You just listen to other people, or you read. We draw from Faulkner, We'd say when you're desperate, go to Shakespeare, go to Faulkner. I know this sounds like hillbilly songwriters in Nashville wouldn't do that, but we would go to Hemingway.
Absolutely.
We'd go to the great authors and open it and hit on F. Scott Fitzgerald and say, whoa, there you go, there's a song in that one line.
Some of my favorite writers are teenagers.
Oh yeah, they're the best.
They write the most amazing rap songs, which then I make them feel great about when I say it's actually lyrical poetry.
It is.
And it is. And they're writing about their lives, their hurts, their excitement. And just like what I've just heard in songwriting, the new generation of writers are doing something very similar now.
Yes.
How do you see the difference in this generation of writers? And I'm thinking specifically songwriters right now, songwriters as compared to your generation of songwriters?
I kind of don't. They're still writing from the heart. And I've always said my two favorite books are a thesaurus and a rhyming dictionary. And yes, they have rhyming dictionaries. I have 3 or 4 of them because rhymes are what stick in people's minds. It's just that thing that makes you, when you hear a song, you remember the lyrics and you don't even know you know them. So these young kids now, they even have a better, maybe that's the only difference, they have a better command of rhyme and meter than we may have. We were maybe more simple, but I don't know. There's some of that Billy Joel stuff that
Has some kick.
it's not simple at all.
No, has some kick, and it took a lot of thought. Took a lot of thought to come up with some of those. And, you know, and I think about some of the modern day rappers that are extremely popular, and when you listen to the lyrics of their song or their poetry, it took a minute to come up with that. A lot of life and a lot of creativity.
And truly, it may have only taken them a minute. Some
can't
of the
tell
best
that
songs
secret.
are ever written in 30 minutes.
Yes.
Elton John used to say, if I didn't write it in 30 minutes, I'd throw it away. Amazing. Yeah.
Oh, I can't even
Got
imagine
bored with
Elton
it.
John. I would love all the things he ever threw away. I am sure of it.
And he had a lyricist, so if he didn't get the melody, because lyrics and poetry are totally different animals. Totally different.
It would have to be. It would have to be, and you know, and there again, you know, I work with a lot of teenagers in writing, and we do a lot of journaling, and they often take their journals and their journal entries and turn those into crazy, amazing lyrical poetry.
That's great.
Which is a lot of fun.
That's therapy. That's what we do in songwriting therapy.
So we're finding out today, talking to you, Mary, that writing is much deeper than just getting some words on some paper.
Yeah.
There's technique, there's flow, there's a rhythm to writing, which...
And I'm kind of a geek, neuroscience-wise. Writing slows your brain down and helps your train of thought. That's why great ideas come to you when you're in the shower or driving, because when you're doing the mundane, your brain just is on fire.
What would be your #1 tip for somebody that's running around crazy like the whole world, but they know they have the best idea? How do you capture those thoughts before they're gone?
Well, unlike I used to do with a piece of paper and almost have wrecks, like before pre-texting, that's what I did in my car. Not a good plan. Your cell phone, a recorder. I carry one with me everywhere I go, and you put those brilliant ideas down. And truthfully, though, if they're really, really brilliant, you don't need to write them down. I learned that secret. If they're really good, you don't need to write them down, or because you will recall them. But just keep doing it, because somewhere, like we started the conversation, somewhere in I'm stuck or it's horrible it's the launching pad for something good. So.
Mary, if people want to get a hold of you to maybe unblock their writer's block, how would they get a hold of you?
MaryJoyCounseling.com, and Joy has an E on the end. It's that easy.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on The Writer's Den. We'll see you next time.